Sri Gurubhyo Namaha children, you are welcome for online class. We are seeing unit 2 pi, the lesson. First two parts over, this is our third part. In first two parts we saw that how pi was just sailing in the lifeboat and how he was facing the danger, and only three. They can travel, they can sail 32 people in that boat, but only 3 people were there going. The hyena, the tiger and the pi. And the Richard Parker, the tiger, was occupying the boat, and the hyena is keeping quiet because the greater animal is there. We saw that in the second part, and we will continue that. Even the things all were made of orange color, and the boat itself seems of orange color. So we found that. The word Tismism and Panama were printed on each side of the bow in stark black Roman capitals. I did not grasp all these details and many more right away. They came to my notice with the time and as such and as a result of necessity. I would be in the dearths of dire straits, facing a bleak future, when some small thing come detailed would transform itself and appear in my mind in a new light. So the word Tismus and Panama were printed on each side of the bow. So here what is printed on each side of the boat? Tismism and Panama were printed on each side of the bow in the stark black Roman capital. It was in Roman capital. Now I did not grasp all these details and many more right away. They came to my notice with the time and as a result of necessity. I would be in the dearths of dire strait, facing a bleak future, when some small thing, some detail would transform into and appear in my mind in a new light. So he was searching a water. When he was searching each side, he will be thinking that where the supply is kept, maybe in that reason he was searching, and when he is searching like that the words, he found these words and all. So he was explaining what it is. Would no longer be the small thing it was before, but the most important thing in the world, the thing that would save my life. This happened time and again. How true it is that necessity is the mother of invention, how very true. So would no longer be the small thing it was before, but the most important thing in the world, the thing that would save my life. This happened time and again. How true it is, necessity is the mother of invention, how very true. So necessity is the mother of invention means we will be searching. So when he is searching, he got so many details about the boat. And he was actually searching for the water to quench his thirst. And what if the supplies were at the bow beneath the tarpaulin? I turned and crawled back. I felt like a dried out lizard. I pushed down on a trampoline. It was tautly stretched. If I unrolled it, I would give myself access to what supplies might be stored below. But that meant creating an opening into Richard Parker's den. There was no question. Thirst pushed me on unrolled. So and what is if the supplies were at the bow beneath and trampoline? I turned and crawled back. I felt like a dried out lizard. So he was just trying to get the water, whether he is searching, bending and bowing, and it was like a dried out lizard. A lizard when it is dried out, how it will be, he was just like that. I pushed down on the trampoline. It was tautly stretched. If I unrolled it, I would give myself access to what supplies might be stored below. But that meant creating an opening onto Richard Parker's den. So here he thought that underneath it must be having any supply, but he must give a myself access to the supply, what supplies might be stored below. But that meant creating an opening onto Richard Parker's den. He must be opening the Richard Parker's den. There was no question. Thirst pushed me on. So here in that under the boat part, it was lying, and maybe in that part some supply may be kept. So here he have to bend down and see in the den. And when he was seeing in the den, there was no question. thirst pushed me on. So your thirst pushed him on. So thirst pushed me on means there is no other go. He want to drink water, and it pushed him to open and see whether it is a great animal, it will hunt him or whatever. That is not in the mind. He thought that he is going to die next second and he want water. So that was pushing him. The bow was like the stern. It had an end bench. So immediately I was rewarded. The bow was like the stern. It had an end bench. And upon it, just a few inches from the stern, a hasp glittered like a diamond. There was the outline of the lid. My heart began to pound. I unrolled the tarpaulin further. I peeked under. The lid was shaped like a round out triangle, 3 feet wide and 2 feet deep. And that moment I perceived an orange mass. I jerked my head back, but the orange wasn't moving and didn't look right. I looked again. It wasn't a tiger, it was a life jacket. There were a number of life jackets at the back of the Richard Parker's den. So in the Richard Parker's den, it was orange color. By seeing the orange color, he was frightened that it might be a tiger, and he bent down more and he was searching, and it was a life jacket. It was not the tiger, and inside the den only the tiger was. And he was searching for the thing. He found a rounded out triangle 3 feet wide and 2 feet deep, and with a shiver went through my body between the life jackets partially, as if through some leaves. I had my first unambitious clear-headed glimpse of Richard Parker. It was as anxious I could see, and part of his back, tawny striped and simply enormous. He was facing the stern, lying flat on his stomach. He was still except for the breathing motion of his sides. I blinked in disbelief at how close he was. He was right there 2 feet beneath. Okay, so here he found that there was a life jacket, and like a leaf, how it is lying and just going in between the leaves. He bent himself underneath and he was searching for the water, and he was just getting it. And me stretching, I could have pinched his bottom, and between us there was nothing but a thin trampoline easily got round. God preserve me, no supplication was ever more passionate, yet more gently carried by the breath. I lay absolutely motionless. I had to have water. I brought my hand down and quietly undid the hasp. I pulled on the lid. It opened onto a locker. I looked down between my legs. I thought I would faint for joy. The open locker glistened with shiny new things. Oh, the delight of the manufactured good. The man-made device. They created things. That moment of material revelation brought an intensity of pleasure, a heady mix of hope, surprise, disbelief, thrill, gratitude, all crushed into one, unequaled in my life by any Christmas, birthday, wedding, Diwali, or other gift-giving occasions. I was positively giddy with happiness. So here, how, suppose if you're opening something when you have Diwali or Christmas gift if you got, like that when he opened, he found a lot of water bottles, and he was just having one in his hand, and it was shiny new things. Oh, the delight of manufactured good, the man-made device, they created things. So he was just by getting a praise. Sometimes if you get a gift which is most want for you, you will be saying so many words for it. The same way the Pi also saying, by having a water bottle, water can in his hand, he was telling that it is man-made and manufactured good and created thing. That moment of a material revelation brought an intensity of pleasure, a heady mix of hope, surprise, disbelief, thrill, gratitude, all crushed into one, unequaled in my life and by any Christmas. So he was thinking that by any Christmas, birthday, wedding, Diwali or other gift giving occasion, I was positively giddy with happiness. So suppose if anybody gives a birthday or on the days you will be getting a gift, and how happy you will be feeling, and how there is no bound of words to tell how you feel. The same way he was feeling. So you can see the thing, how he was in the boat. He was just sitting. My eyes immediately fell upon what I was looking for, whether in a bottle, a tin can, or a carton. Water is unmistakably packed. So whatever the water is packed, maybe in a tin can or a carton, water is unmistakably packed. On this lifeboat, the wine of life was served in a pale golden cans that fit nicely in the hand. Drinking water, said the vintage label in black letters, HB Food Limited, where the Winters 500 ml, where the contents, there were stacks of these cans, too many to count a glance. So here he got a drinking water. So he was on this lifeboat, the wine of life was served in the pale golden cans. So he says that in this lifeboat, the wine of life, here he is not talking about the wine, he was talking about the water. The wine of the life was served in pale golden cans. So it was made of a can, and it is made of pale golden color, and that fit nicely in the hand. So that can will fit nicely in the hand, and was written drinking water. Said the vintage label. The vintage label says that it is a drinking water in black letters. HB Food Limits, where the Winters, 500 ml were the content. So 500 ml, each can was having 500 ml content. There were stocks of these cans, too many to count at a glance. So he was having lot of stocks, and he can count too many things. With a shaking hand, I reached down and picked one up. It was cool to the touch and heavy. I shook it. The bubble of air inside made a double gulp, gulp, gulp sound. I was about to be delivered from my hellish thirst. My pulse raised at the thought I only had to open the can. I paused. How could I do that? So here he feels that with a shaking hand. So he was taking the water bottle with a shaking hand. I reached down and picked one up. He reached down and picked one up. It was cool to touch and heavy. So it was heavy to carry and cool to touch. And I shook it. The bubble of the air inside made a dull gulp, gulp, gulp sound. So it was made a gulp sound, and it is making a gulp, gulp, gulp sound. I was about to be delivered from my hellish thirst. So I was about to be delivered from my hellish thirst. He was very thirsty, and I was hellish thirst. My pulse raised at the thought. So my pulse raised at the thought. So it pulse raised at the thought. I only had to open the can. So he was having only to open the can. I paused. How could I do that? So he was paused. He stopped for some time, and he was just thinking how he can do that. I had a can. Surely I had a can opener. I looked in the locker. So he was having a can. Surely there must be a can opener. And he was just looking. I looked in the locker. There was a great quantity of things. I rummaged about. I was losing patience. Aching expectation had run its fruitful course. I had to drink now, or I would die. I would not find the desired instrument, but there was no time for useless distress. Action was needed. Could I prise it open with my fingernails? I tried, I couldn't. My teeth, it wasn't worth trying. I looked at gunnel, the trampoline hooks, sharp, blunt, solid. I kneeled on the bench and leaned over, holding the can with the both at my hand. I sharply brought it up against the hook. I couldn't. I did it again. Another dint next to the best first. By the dint of dinting, I managed the trick. A pearl of water appeared. I licked it off. I turned the can and banged the opposite side of the top up against the hook to make another hole. I worked like a fiend. I made a larger hole. I worked like a fiend. I made a larger hole. I sat back on the kennel. I held the can up to my face. I opened my mouth. I tilted the can. So he got the can of water, and he was not able to open. and he was very thirsty and he was searching for the thing, and he doesn't find time to search, and was searching for the opener. At last he tried with his fingers, he tried with his nail, he tried with his teeth, so nothing worked. And he tried with the hook in the boat, and first time he was trying, he didn't get, second time, third time, like that he was doing. My feeling can perhaps be imagined, but they can hardly be described. So you can imagine, but it is very tough time for me. Hardly, I cannot do that. So hardly it cannot be described, he was saying. You can undergo that such experience. You can't explain such things. To the gurgling beat of my greedy throat, pure, delicious, beautiful, crystalline water followed in my system. Liquid life it was. I drained that golden cup to a very last drop, sucking at the hole to catch any remaining moisture. I went tossed a can overboard and got another one. I opened it the way I had the first, and its content vanished just as quickly. So he was so thirsty, and as soon as he opened it, he just kept in his mouth and he was just finishing all. And he took one more, and the same way how he opened the first one, the same way he was just opening it, and he was just having a drink. That can sailed overboard too, and I opened the next one, which shortly also ended up with the ocean. And he tasted the water till the last drop of it, and another can was dispatched. I drank 4 cans, 2 liters of that most exquisite of nectars before I stopped. So without non-stopping, he drank 4 cans, that is 2 liters of water, and he stopped. You might think such a rapid intake of water after prolonged thirst might upset my system. Nonsense, I never felt better in my life. My brow, my forehead was wet with fresh, clean, refreshing perspiration. Everything in me, right down to the pores of my skin, was expressing joy. So he was just having continuously 4 cans of water, and after drinking, mostly after eating too much, you will have a trouble. But after drinking 4 cans, that is 2 liters of water, he was having a precipitation, sweat all over his body, in each skin, pore, forehead, arm, eyes, every part of body was just feeling very joy. And the pores of my skin was expressing the joy, it was expressing the joy. A sense of well-being quickly overcame me. My mouth became moist and soft. I forgot about the back of my throat. My skin relaxed, my joints moved with greater ease. My heart began to beat like a merry drum, and blood started flowing through my veins like cars from a wedding party honking their way through town. Strength and suppleness came back to my muscles. My head became clearer. Truly, I was coming back to life from the head. It was glorious. I tell you, to be drunk on alcohol is disgraceful, but to the drunk on water is noble and ecstatic, based in a bliss and plenitude for several minutes. So he says that a sense of well-being quickly overcame. So he was very tired. So now he was overcoming all. Well-being quickly overcome me. My mouth became moist and soft. His mouth was just having a dry one. Now it was becoming moist and soft. And I forgot about the back of my throat. So he was thinking of his throat was just having an irritation. So that all went. And his skin all relaxed. And his joints moved with a great ease, and my heart began to beat like a merry drum. You know how a merry drum will be just making a sound and lot of sound and effective. So like that, his heart also is making a laptop sound like that, and glowing through my veins like cars from a wedding party. So when a wedding party, a car will be moving with honking sound. So like that, its veins all moving. My head became clearer. Truly, I was coming back to life from the dead. So it was very clear to him, and he had just come back from the death to the life. and it was glorious. It was glorious for him. I tell you to drink an alcohol. He is saying that drinking an alcohol is not so good, but it is a disgraceful one. But to drunk on water is noble and aesthetic and based on bliss and plentiful for several times. So he had drunk the water after a good thirst. He was realizing how useful the water was. I had water rations to last me 124 days. So he was having a storage of water and it was for 124 days. Never had simple arithmetic brought such as simple to my face. It was Richard Parker who calmed me down. It is okay. It is irony of the story that one was scared of witless to start with was the very same who brought me peace, purpose, I dare say even wholeness. So he is saying that the Richard Parker was there and he is not worried about it, and only that made him the thing to search for the water, and they are having for 124 days. He was just calculating the water number, the can number, and how much water he is having and how much days it will be coming. I had to tame him. So now after he got drinking water, his health came back properly and he was thinking about Richard Parker and he had to tame him. I had to tame him. It was that the moment that I realized this necessity. It was not a question of think or me, but of him and me. We were literally and figuratively in the same boat. We would live or we would die together. He might be killed in an accident or he could be shortly of natural causes. But it would be foolish to count on such an eventual. More likely the worst would happen. The simple passage of time in which his animal toughness would easily outlast my human frailty. For only if I tamed him could I possibly trick him into dying first, if we had to come to the sorry business. So here he finds that now he got a good health and he had to tame the tiger, and if he tame the tiger only, both can sail safe and end their life, otherwise it will be having a problem. But there is more to it. I will come clean. I will tell you a secret. A part of me was glad about Richard Parker. A part of me did not want Richard Parker to die at all, because if he died, I would be left alone with despair, forever more formidable than a tiger. If I still had the will to live, it was thanks to Richard Parker. He kept me for thinking too much about my family and my tragedy circumstance. He pushed me to go on living. I hated him for it, yet at the same time I was grateful. I'm grateful. It's the plain truth. Without Richard Parker, I wouldn't be alive today to tell you my story. I left Richard Parker in a jungle and waited for a ship. It pained me to see the animal without even turning his head to have a last glimpse. A ship did find me and I am now reunited with my family. So here it tells that in the boat, suppose if he is alone there, by loneliness he would have died. So Richard Parker was a good companion for him. He says that better he is even a foe for me, but let him be with me and let not be alone. So that was his mindset, and he wanted to save himself and the Richard Parker, and he had just traveled in the sail for 127 days, and after sailing 127 days safely with the Richard Parker and he, two of them with a company, and at last he left him in the jungle, and he feels that he had not felt grateful, but I feel grateful for his company, and he didn't feel the same to me. So he was just telling, and he says that when I left him in the jungle, he had not even turned and see me. He was very happy to go run away to the jungle. He had not turned and given a glimpse to me. But I feel that he was a good soul friend for me in the sail, and I felt very lonely if he were not there. So he was saying like that, and he was saying that I left Richard Parker in a jungle. He left and he just board on the ship, and he has reunited with his family members. So that was the story, children. And he was just narrating how all he felt, and that all been explained in this. I believe that you understood. So here in the boat they were sailing, and when he saw in the lifeboat for past 3 days, he had not noticed who all there. Later he come to know that Parker was there, a tiger, and hyena was there, a zebra was there, and with the 127 days he had a sail in that. You just think over, it is not an imagination, a real sail, and see, think of it, how it would be if you were there. So you would have been died, fainted and died in front of the tiger itself, or even me, I would have been frightened. I would have jumped in the water. Better to sail with the tiger. But he was sailed along with, and he feels that in the loneliness his companion was very helpful to him, and he was grateful to him. So that was the story, children. I think you enjoyed the second unit, the 3 part, and let us continue the next class with a new lesson, children. Until then, bye. Thank you, children.